it really surprised me when I found out that not only did some people think Padme died of heartbreak, but that was kind of the common accepted um, means of her dying, and like I don't know, like I just never saw it that way, and I could be way off. I could be way overthinking things, which I do tend to do. But yeah, I mean, it never even considered, it never even occurred to me that that would be why she died. I mean, it made no sense. I mean, other than, yeah, going through a traumatically emotional experience and then giving birth to twins and then, but I don't know, to just then die of heartbreak. So, what I always had assumed happened, which still to this day, am pretty positive what really happened was the Emperor killed her. She was weak. I mean, there's a lot she went through. I want to do a video all about just like that Padme and Anakin, kind of reevaluating the relationship. But she went through a lot. And, very intense stuff. And then, yeah, having that traumatic emotional experience of realizing, hey, Anakin had just slaughtered all these kids. And then he chokes her. And then, she goes through birth. And so she's in a very fragile state. And I think the Emperor just used the Force to just kind of push her over and kill her. I mean, he wanted her dead. He needed her dead. You know what? How did he know she was dead? Like, why did he assume the kids were dead? Did he not know the kids were? Of course, he knew the kids were alive. He's extremely force sensitive. So even if he had used the force to sense Padme dying, then he would have sensed the children had lived. And I don't know. Maybe they, I guess supposedly like they hid the fact that they lived, but that they were they really able to hide that from the Emperor? I know, like the people at large believed that Padme's children had died in childbirth along with her. But I mean, I don't buy it. Like it makes so much more sense to me that the Emperor had killed her, and he knew the twins were alive. So he needed her dead because she would always be a draw for Anakin to turn on him. I mean, she was his weak point. Um, so her being alive represented a constant threat to what he was trying to build with Vader. Um, but also, he needed a potential backups, in case he did need to get rid of. I mean, he never really trusted Vader. He was, even if you know any of the expanded lore, but even in what they've shown, I mean, it's not like Vader was his solid, trusty right hand guy, um, with absolute loyalty. And then going even further, like, so if he knew they were alive, Leia would have been harder to get to. She was raised by a pretty wealthy family. I mean, she grew up Princess Leia, so surrounded by guards and all that. Luke, however, um, grew up pretty much in the middle of nowhere. But is it a coincidence that at the very beginning of the first original movie, he he actually supported the Empire. Like he wanted to join the Empire, so he had very positive feelings. I mean, a big part of it was just that teenage urge to kind of run away, to explore, to adventure, and but why the Empire? I mean, there's other options, but he had a positive enough view of the Empire that he wanted to sign up with them, and I think that that's not a coincidence. If the Emperor knew he was alive and knew where he was, one, that would have helped him keep Vader away from that. Why did Vader never figure out that Luke and Obi-Wan were both on Tatooine? Like, anyway. Um, so it just makes so much more sense to me. The idea that the Emperor killed Padme to get her out of the way, so that he could have the kids um, as potential backups for if anything happened to Vader or Vader turned on him. Um, and that was especially important because of Order 66. And, they were hunting down all the Jedi. They were hunting down, any Force sensitives that they could find. So he just kind of kept them in his back pocket uh, in order to have backups. So, yeah, basically that it makes so much sense. She died of heartbreak. I mean, that's wild. Like, I don't know who first thought of that and how it spread. Or, I don't know. Maybe again, I'm just watching the movies wrong. But it just seems so much more interesting that way, so much better. And I mean, that the Emperor wasn't like stunned to find out, oh, Vader, your kid's still alive, what did he say? Oh, bring him to me. It wasn't like shock or anything. He's like, okay, well, bring him here. Let's meet him and see can we tempt him to our side. And I mean, and if he had somebody around him, kind of keeping an eye on him and maybe nudging him towards positive, thinking positively of the Empire, thinking positively of the Emperor, putting those thoughts in his head, kind of. So from a very young age, he was raised to at least not be against the Empire, you know, be so. Yeah, then having him brought to him, he had a reasonable notion that Luke, especially on finding out that Vader was his father, would um, want to join them. So yeah, um, it's just a better movie that way, I think. And again, it just how awful of an end does that make for one of the central characters? It's just, oh, I'm heartbroken. I mean, yeah, she was sad. She was emotionally devastated. Um, and there was a lot more to it too, which I'll get into in my next video. Why their relationship between Anakin and Padme was actually fascinating. Really, when you think about it, like when you really break it down, like there's a lot of things I think people miss and they're looking at wrong. Because when I first watched it, I did not come away with the same understanding that most people seem to have. And I just think that makes for better, but that's, again, next video, I guess. This one's already getting long enough. Au revoir. Adios.